Hi, I'm Angela Wolf. I'm a fashion designer and online instructor. And today we're going to go back to the 1900s. Back then, a lot of the dresses and the skirts were full length, and they would cover them with a kimono duster. They would wear sheer ones with beautiful ribbon trim in the evenings, and they would wear other ones during the day to protect their garments while they were traveling from all the dust from the roads. So here I've made a few modern versions. This one here is made out of a sweater. Very fun. I could definitely see wearing that over jeans. And I'm going to show you how to alter any pattern to create this. There's no shoulder seam. It's officially a kimono. Here we have just a vest. I'm going to show you how I took the same pattern and just cut it with lace. This really took only 30 minutes to make. I used the selvage of the lace as the front, and I finished the inside of the sleeve here with a ribbon trim, which I'm going to show you how to do. And lastly, a very similar style, except I put slits in the side and I added a set-in sleeve. Very simple. So let's go to our pattern. This is just a base dress. Simple dress, front darts, bust darts. You could do this on anything, but this was a base that will give you an idea. So take any pattern that you have. Here is my shoulder. Again, the purple one did not have a shoulder seam. So angle this out. Now, how far do you want to angle it? Measure on yourself from your neck to however long you want this. Maybe you want it shorter, longer, whatever that length is, measure from the neck to the end of that length. That's it. Now come here. Around the corner, if you were to take this as your armhole, that would not be very much room. You need some room here because you're going to probably wear it over a turtleneck or a sweater or something like that. So just come down a little ways. Let's just say, how much room do you want? You can measure. So let's just say we want. Notice that this seam here is going to be perpendicular to the shoulder seam. It doesn't have to be, but that's what I'm going to do. Let's just say we want to go down 8 inches. I still might want that larger, but that's one way to start. And all you have to do is angle this in. Here's the dart. I'm just going to angle it just like this. This curve doesn't have to be perfect, but there's going to be a curve under your armhole. I'm going to show you on the back side a little different version. So that's one way. If whatever you do to the front, you have to do to the back. So let's do one more on the back here. Make that one long. The other thing is if you want this to hang a little bit different, don't be afraid of changing this seam line. Okay? Now I'm giving you a lot of ideas here, but if you were to take this shoulder seam and just angle it up a little more, instead of having it slanted and fitted, this would also give you more room. So that's another option. Again, whatever you do to the front, you have to do to the back. If you raise that, say this is 2 inches or however much that is, you would need to do that to the front. And again, here's another way where it's not perpendicular. Just draw that down a ways, and again, start at the body of the garment. Give yourself some extra room here and angle out. If you're going to use sheer drapey fabrics, which is really fun with ribbon, is what I'm going to show you on, you want a lot of room here. You don't want tightness because it will distress the fabric and rip. So here you go. That's how easy this is. So let's take a look at one that I have out of silk chiffon. Right up here. Now I haven't finished the edges because I wanted you to see what this looks like. This pattern has a lot of room right here. I'm going to measure just so you can see here. We have 10 inches. So that's 20 inches around the arm. That's plenty of room. And what I've done is I've finished the edge with this ribbon. See the white on the back of the ribbon? And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's take this off. If you're going to use a sheer fabric, a rotary cutter, a very sharp rotary cutter, is really ideal. Because when the scissors slide under this, it can really easily change, and it won't be straight. You can actually see there's little waves here. You want this to be as straight as possible. I'm going to just trim. Trim. If you cut too much off, make sure that you go back. This is a French seam. You might have to go back and restitch the end of these seams so they don't open up while you're stitching. I'm going to use pink ribbon on this side. I think it'll be easier for you to see. So I'm not going to stitch it to the right side of the garment. I'm actually going to stitch it to the wrong side of the garment because I'm going to stitch it to the wrong side of the garment and then fold it to the right side and top stitch. Very simple to do. So here's the wrong side. I'm starting at the underarm. And I'm just going to put one pin, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine because you really don't need to pin this all the way around, assuming you have enough ribbon. So that's all I'm doing. Put it about halfway in the middle, the fabric, and let's go to the sewing machine. So there are quite a few stitches you could choose from. I'm going to actually change the ribbon to the other side to make it easier to sew so you can see this. Again, this is the underarm. The ribbon is attached to the wrong side of the fabric. If you can change your machine and pull this out, you have a great area for the sleeve to fit underneath. And here are a few stitches that I chose to finish. Just a decorative embroidery stitch, very easy. For the first part, I'm just going to do a straight stitch. Okay, put the needle down. I'm actually going to put the needle down right on the edge of that ribbon. This is a sheer fabric, so you can see that. And if you happen to have the camera feature, it's kind of nice because you can put the camera under and see the ribbon. And see the ribbon under here. You'll be able to see it better later, but if you're using a lighter fabric, it really makes a difference. So make your stitch length whatever you want. It depends on your fabric. For sheer, 2.5 to 3.0. And I'm just going to stitch around. And I don't need pins. I can see everything. I'm going right on the edge. Now notice that my fabric isn't completely straight. It's just, you know, it's not cut perfectly straight. It doesn't matter because you're never going to see it. And keep going all the way around. And whatever ribbon you choose, some are a little bit more flimsy. This one I just found in the craft and hobby section. It just was kind of a fun decorative one. It doesn't matter. It's something that is decorative. Now make sure that it does not fray though. So I'm just going to cut off a piece. We're almost round to the end. And you can do the same trim on the bottom of the duster, along the front of it, and it'll be the same exact technique. So let's get around to the end here. And when I get to the end, I'm going to cut this off. Maybe a little nicer cut than that. And to finish the edge, just fold up your trim. Line up this piece here, and then just stitch. Okay, so that's from the wrong side of the garment. You can press this. I'm not going to press it because it'll take a few minutes, but you would press this up. I'm just going to finger fold it up. Go back to the right side of the garment, choose whatever stitch you want. I'm going to keep this as a straight stitch for now so you can see it, but this is where those decorative stitches came in. This is where the camera feature is shown, where I can see the very edge. And then one last thing, if I like to use this just to line everything up. And let's stitch. The embroidery, if you want to use a different design, it can finish the edges. Let's get around just a little ways. That looks about good. Again, I want to show you, I'm not going to go all the way around. You go all the way around and finish and back stitch. So here we have this. Now, you can see the back side of that fabric. See that raw edge? So if I was doing this and I really had a lot of time, I would probably trim that to make sure it's even. Then we have this side. Now this is where these decorative stitches come in, just like that. So I'm going to quickly show you how to do a French seam on a silk, a real light silk. This is silk chiffon, which I chose so you can see through it. It makes it a little bit easier to see. So I'm doing a very narrow seam here. Again, it'll depend on your seam allowance. So here we have just a very narrow seam. Just trim that off to make it very close to the stitch line. And I am using white thread just so you can see what's going on. But if you use black, well, you'll see when this is finished, it's a perfect seam. All right, there we go. Now we just have to give this a little pressing. Flip the fabric so the seam actually lines up on the edge, the seam edge. and then go back to the machine, and all you're doing is enclosing that seam allowance. And you would give it another pressing, whichever direction you need it to go. So that's the outside, and that's the inside. You can see how that enclosed the entire seam. There's no raw edges. And that's how easy it is to take fashions from the 1900s and make them modern.